Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, could be articles, research, even just notes you've gathered, and we really dig in to find the key insights.
Yeah, we try to cut through the noise, help you figure out what's truly important in all that material you've sent us.
Think of us as, I guess, your guides, helping you get informed faster, maybe find some surprising connections, and, keep you engaged.
We're aiming to connect the dots, see that bigger picture hiding in the details.
And today, we are diving deep into excerpts from Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last.
Right. This one's kind of positioned as the next step from his earlier work, start with why.
That first book was all about finding your organization's purpose, the core mission, the why.
Exactly. And Leaders Eat Last, well, it digs into the how and the who. It goes beyond just knowing the purpose.
Right. The sources we looked at explain that just knowing your why, well, it's crucial. It's not enough for the long haul, is it?
Not at all. Leaders Eat Last tackles the elements of leadership that really explain why some organizations manage to thrive, not just survive, through good times and bad.
And it seems to boil down to creating environments where people genuinely feel safe, where they feel like they matter.
That's the heart of it. It's about the human element.
So who is this deep dive really for, based on what we read?
Well, it seems like it's for pretty much anyone involved in any kind of organization. Leaders, sure, at any level, but also employees, team members.
Or even just someone interested in, human behavior, how groups work.
Absolutely. Anyone curious about why some teams click and others just don't? Or why some companies succeed spectacularly and others implode?
And why should you, listening now, stick with us for this one? What's the payoff?
Well, the source material suggests it offers really deep explanations for why we act the way we do in organizations. It gets into the real reasons for success and failure, often the stuff that gets overlooked.
Things beyond just strategy or market conditions.
Definitely. It's about the human dynamics. And by understanding those, the idea is you get a foundation for building organizations that are, stable, innovative.
Resilient.
Yes.
Able to handle bumps in the road.
Exactly. Resilient. Because they prioritize people, they build trust. That's the key takeaway from the sources.
So it sounds like the goal is partly inspiration too, like encouraging you to be a better leader, or maybe find a workplace where you feel truly valued.
Yeah, I think so. It's about showing what's possible when leaders genuinely care and empowering people to either be that kind of leader or seek out those kinds of environments.
Okay, so our mission today, distill the big ideas from these excerpts, really get a grip on Sinek's core lessons about leadership and human behavior.
And importantly, see how those ideas actually play out. The book uses a lot of real-world stories examples.
Right, connect the theory to the practice, see it in action.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we mentioned start with why, finding the organization's purpose.
And Leaders Eat Last is presented as the logical next step. The source is pretty explicit. Knowing your why is step one, but it's just not the whole picture.
You have to understand and genuinely value the people bringing that why to life.
Precisely. It's the next level. Without the people focus, the why is just words.
So the main argument, the thesis, is pretty direct. Being good at your job, technically competent, that's baseline. It's not enough for real leadership.
Right. The kind of leadership that builds something lasting, something meaningful, it requires leaders who actually truly care about the people they're responsible for.
And the sources make a clear distinction here, don't they? Between just managing well and actually leading well.
They do. Good management is about processes, efficiency, hitting the numbers, keeping things running smoothly. It's necessary, no doubt.
But it won't guarantee survival or success in the long run, especially when things get tough.
Exactly. The book argues that where organizations really falter is when leadership fails to create that environment where people feel they matter, when they feel safe and valued.
So long-term success, in good times and bad, comes from places where people share the values, the why. But just as importantly, they feel valued by the leadership and the organization itself.
It's about the culture, the feeling. Are people just cogs, or are they seen as actual human beings?
There's that great quote the sources mention from John Quincy Adams. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader.
That really sums up the book's spirit, doesn't it? It's not about command and control. It's about inspiration.
Creating an environment where people feel motivated to grow, to push themselves, maybe even become leaders too.
Yeah, it implies this positive cycle. The leader invests in the people grow and achieve more, which reflects well on everyone, including the leader. It elevates the whole group.
And the source flat out says a leader who really takes care of their people and the organization's health. Well, in a fundamental way, They can't really fail. It's a powerful claim.
It is, and that focus on taking care of people leads directly into one of the book's central concepts, the circle of safety.
Right, this taps into something really primal, doesn't it? Our basic survival instinct. We're always kind of scanning for danger.
Constantly. And Sinek applies this to organizations. He says just like early humans face threats, organizations face dangers too, but from two different directions.
Outside dangers and inside dangers.
Exactly. The outside dangers are the things we mostly can't control. The economy, new technology popping up, competitors, market shifts, deadlines, pressure.
Like the saber-toothed tigers or bad weather for our ancestors. Constant, unpredictable stuff from out there.
Right. But then there are the dangers inside the organization. And this is the crucial part the source emphasizes. These dangers are variable. They aren't constant. And most importantly,
We can control them.
we can control them, or at least leadership can control them.
Okay, so what are these internal dangers? The sources mention things like fear of layoffs, office politics, worrying about your boss or colleagues undermining you.
Yes, all of that. The fear that making a mistake means losing your job. The feeling that you have to watch your back, compete with your own teammates, protect your turf.
And the core problem Sinek identifies is when people are busy protecting themselves from each other.
The whole organization gets weaker. It becomes less able to deal with those real threats from the outside. The source uses a direct quote here saying essentially that exact thing.
It makes intuitive sense.
Right.
All that energy spent on internal maneuvering and self-preservation.
It's energy not being spent on innovation, customer service, or beating the competition. It's like the group is fighting itself instead of the real enemy.
So how does leadership fix this? How do you create that circle of safety?
According to the source, strong, truly human leaders make a conscious effort to extend that circle to include everyone in the organization, not just the executives, not just certain departments, everyone.
And when that happens,
Well,
when people feel included and protected,
it changes the whole dynamic. The need for constant self-preservation starts to fade. Internal rivalries lessen. People can actually lower their guard a bit.
and what does that feel like? Being inside the circle.
It feels like you're valued, like your boss and your colleagues genuinely care about you, have your back. You trust them. You feel like you belong, like you're a secure part of the team.
And the benefits for the organization.
Huge. Information flows freely because people aren't afraid to speak up, even with bad news. Communication gets better. Innovation thrives because people aren't scared to share new ideas or risk failure.
Problems get caught earlier.
Exactly. Because people aren't trying to hide them. The whole organization just becomes stronger, more cohesive, better able to face those outside challenges together.
The source connects this back to our evolution, right? Saying high-performing organizations kind of mimic how early humans thrived.
Yeah, it's a fascinating point. We evolved to survive best when we felt safe within our tribe, allowing us to cooperate and face external dangers as a unit. It suggests this isn't just some modern management fad. It's rooted in our biology and anthropology. It's not about hiring some mythical dream team.
It's about creating the conditions for people to work together effectively.
Right. Creating the right environment.
And the source uses some really strong language about the leader's responsibility here. That quote.
The one about employees being someone's son or daughter.
Yes. Every single employee is someone's son or someone's daughter.
Yeah.
Like a parent, a leader of a company is responsible for their precious lives. That's intense.
It is. It frames leadership not just as a job, but as a profound duty of care. Like parents entrusting their children to the company, hoping the leaders will look after them. Leaders like Bob Chapman, mentioned in the sources, apparently really took this to heart.
It reframes a whole employer-employee relationship.
Completely. And interestingly, the source even suggests that capitalism itself works better when we operate this way.
How so? Isn't capitalism supposed to be cutthroat competition?
That's the common view, but the argument here is that it actually performs better long-term when leaders foster cooperation, trust, loyalty, when they treat people like family.
Even if it means sacrificing short-term numbers sometimes to protect people.
Especially then, the source argues that organizations willing to do that, to put people before profits in a crisis, are the ones that end up being the most stable, innovative, and resilient.
And it's not about the leader being some lone genius.
No, it's about the leader creating the conditions for great people to emerge and do amazing things together. The people make the leader look good, not the other way around. It flips the traditional script.
And the book apparently shows examples of companies doing this right now. It's not just theory.
No, it's presented as achievable.
Okay, so if this cooperation and trust is so important, why are we wired for it? The sources dive into brain chemistry, right? EDSO.
Yes, EDSO endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These four chemicals are presented as the biological drivers behind a lot of our social behavior and motivation. Understanding them helps explain why the work environment has such a huge impact.
Let's break them down. E is for endorphins.
Right. Think natural painkillers, mood elevators. The runner's high is the classic example.
That feeling that helps you push through pain or discomfort.
Exactly. Evolutionarily, they helped our ancestors endure the physical hardship of hunting or gathering. Masked pain kept them going.
And in the workplace.
It connects to the satisfaction of physical exertion, pushing through a tough physical task, working long hours on your feet. There's a biological reward, a good feeling associated with that kind of effort.
Okay. Next, D, dopamine, the progress chemical.
Yeah, dopamine is all about achieving goals, finding things we seek. It gives you that satisfying, yes, feeling.
Like finding food back in the day.
Or shelter, or anything necessary. It drove persistence. In organizations, it's what motivates us to set targets, focus, get things done. Ticking off items on a list gives you little hits. Reaching the big goal gives you a big hit.
So clear goals are important because they trigger dopamine.
Absolutely. You need to be able to see the finish line, visualize the reward. That's why a vague mission like be the best isn't very motivating biologically. Compare that to Dr. King's I have a dream, a powerful visual goal. The source suggests the best visions are often these big ideals we strive towards, offering dopamine hits from the progress along the way.
But there's a warning about dopamine. A dark side.
A big one. Dopamine is highly addictive. It can drive this relentless focus on short-term wins, hitting metrics, getting results now, sometimes ignoring the long-term costs.
Like chasing quarterly numbers above all else.
Or constantly checking social media for likes, that instant gratification loop. The source explicitly links this addiction faster, now more to dopamine.
And the danger is it can replace
What?
deeper fulfillment.
Yeah, the argument is it can crowd out the satisfaction that comes from genuine human connection, from contributing to something bigger than just hitting a target. It's a shallower form of reward.
Okay, moving on to S, serotonin, the leadership chemical.
Right. Serotonin is linked to status, respect, pride. It's a feeling of being liked or valued by your group. It reinforces social bonds.
Like when you get public recognition for good work.
Exactly. Or that feeling Sally Field described winning her Oscar, you like me, that's serotonin. It feels good when the tribe acknowledges your contribution.
So it encourages behavior that benefits the group.
Yes, it's a reward for earning a respect. The marathon example in the source is good. You get endorphins and dopamine from the effort, but the pride of the medal, the cheers from the crowd, that's serotonin related to social standing.
And it creates a positive loop. Contribute more, get more respect, feel good, want to contribute more.
That's the healthy cycle. Leaders feel it when their team succeeds. Team members feel it when they make their leader proud. It reinforces pro-social behavior.
Dark side.
Of course. It can drive status seeking for its own sake. Chasing fancy titles, expensive things. Trying to get the feeling of status without the substance of contribution. That hit is temporary because it's not based on real relationships or earned respect. Leadership based only on title is fragile.
Got it. And finally, O, oxytocin, the trust and love chemical.
This one is absolutely key for the circle of safety. Oxytocin is the chemical of bonding, friendship, deep trust, love. It makes us feel safe, secure, like we belong.
Biologically essential for parents and children, pairs, tribes, cooperation.
Crucial for cooperation. In organizations, it's what makes us look out for each other, work together, feel safe being vulnerable, asking for help, trusting that someone has your back.
And that fosters better problem solving, more openness.
Definitely. And it's released through things like physical touch, a handshake, a pat on the back, but also acts of generosity, giving help, receiving help.
Even just seeing someone be generous.
Yeah. The source tells that story about seeing someone help an elderly person with a bag, and the witness felt good. It shows how oxytocin can be contagious, fostering a positive social environment.
So kindness literally spreads good chemistry.
That's the implication. It encourages reciprocity.
Yeah.
But oxytocin has an enemy.
Let me guess. Cortisol, the stress hormone.
Bingo. Cortisol is our alarm system. Fight or flight. Short-term survival.
Released when we feel threatened.
Exactly. And in organizations, it's often triggered by those internal dangers, fear of layoffs, politics. lack of control.
The source mentioned the Whitehall studies.
Right. The studies on British civil servants found that stress-related illness and death weren't tied so much to job demands, but lack of control. Lower rank meant less control, more stress, much worse health outcomes.
Like 4 times higher mortality at the bottom. That's staggering. It
Yeah.
shows the physical toll.
It really does. And here's the critical link. Cortisol inhibits oxytocin.
So stress makes it harder to trust and connect.
Precisely. When you're constantly stressed by your work environment, your biology makes you less empathetic, less cooperative, more self-focused. It actively works against building that circle of safety.
And we can get used to these toxic environments. Adapt, like adapting to high altitude.
Yeah, the source uses that analogy. We can normalize low-level fear, politics, the constant threat of layoffs. We might stay because changing jobs feels even scarier, even if the safety we have is kind of an illusion.
It's a damaging cycle.
Right.
Understanding the chemistry really highlights why leadership actions matter so much.
It provides a biological basis for why creating a safe environment is paramount.
Okay, the book uses stories to make this real. Let's talk about some of those examples. Johnny Bravo, the A-10 pilot.
Right? A powerful military example. He's flying high, relatively safe. Troops below him are in danger, deep in enemy territory, clouds obscuring everything.
No orders to go down, extremely risky to do so.
But he feels that connection, that responsibility. Then the call comes, troops in contact, and instantly he starts the dangerous descent.
Not for a medal, not for a bonus.
No, for the people. He risked his life because he felt part of that team responsible for them. That's oxytocin, the bond, the empathy, and serotonin, the sense of duty, the pride in his role.
And the key is, the environment of trust allowed him to make that choice. Prioritize people over protocol or personal safety.
Exactly. He acted for the group because he felt secure within the group's ethos of mutual support. And all 22 men survived because he did.
That's the circle of safety enabling heroic action.
Contrast that with the description of Goldman Sachs in the source.
Right, an environment described as internally ruthless, pitting people against each other, lacking trust.
Yeah, a former employee quoted saying the environment itself made it possible for people to do bad things, even if they weren't inherently bad people.
It shows the negative side. A high cortisol, low oxytocin environment fostering selfishness.
A stark contrast. It highlights how leadership choices shape the culture and subsequent behavior.
Now, Bob Chapman at Barry Wimler, a very different business example.
A really positive one. Remember Ron Campbell, the employee at Hazen Sandy Ecker?
The factory worker who felt distrusted. Time clocks, needing permission for phones, feeling separate from the office staff.
Yeah. Chapman saw that as a failure of the circle of safety. He believed you have to extend trust to earn trust.
So he got rid of the time clocks, the payphones, treated everyone the same.
He did. Radical steps, really. Treating everyone like trusted adults, regardless of role.
And the impact.
Transformative, according to the source. People started working for each other, not just for the paycheck. A sense of shared purpose, dignity, oxytocin and serotonin building up. Chapman's precious lives idea again.
And then the recession hit in 2008. The big test.
Huge test. Most companies went straight to layoffs. That would have destroyed the trust Chapman built.
But he did the furlough thing instead. Everyone takes unpaid leave.
Yes. Every single person, top to bottom, his announcement. Better we all suffer a little so none of us has to suffer a lot.
Wow. That just perfectly sums up the circle of safety idea. We're in it together.
And the employees' reaction was amazing. People trading wunks, taking extra unpaid time voluntarily, immense gratitude and cooperation, sacrificing numbers to save people, reinforced the trust dramatically. Powerful stuff.
Another incredible story was the Taj Hotel employees during the Mumbai attack.
Yeah, facing extreme danger, terrorist attack happening right there. Yet many employees stayed to help guests, guide them, risk their own lives.
They weren't forced to. They chose to.
And the source attributes this, at least partly, to the Taj culture, a place where employees reportedly felt deeply valued and cared for. That generated incredible loyalty and bravery, shows the potential depth of commitment when that circle is strong.
There was also that short Marine Corps story about integrity.
Oh yeah, the officer candidate who fell asleep and lied about it.
And the point wasn't that he fell asleep, but that he denied it. Integrity means owning up immediately, not just when caught.
Because in their world, lives depend on trust. You have to trust your leader's word. Any hint of dishonesty breaks teamwork, causes hesitation, can be fatal. Integrity, words, and deeds matching intentions is non-negotiable for trust.
So leaders who spin or hide the truth actively destroy the circle of safety.
Absolutely. Now, on the flip side, the source uses the Deepwater Horizon disaster as an example of what happens when metrics trump safety.
BP prioritizing cost-cutting schedules over safety protocols.
Yeah, a documented pattern. The relentless drive for numbers, for shareholder value chasing dopamine hits, created a culture where safety was compromised.
And the source argues the disaster wasn't just bad luck, but a predictable outcome of that culture.
Exactly. A tragic consequence of putting abstract numbers ahead of people and environmental well-being.
This connects to that whole shift towards shareholder value theory.
Right. The source traces this shift from the older idea of managerialism, where companies felt broader responsibilities, to the dominant theory from the 70s onwards that the only goal is maximizing shareholder value.
Popularized by economists, became mainstream thinking.
Even though the legal basis is shaky, according to the source, corporations own themselves, shareholders just own shares. But it took hold, and this shift is linked to more abuses. Fraud, stock manipulation, huge pay gaps.
Because it prioritized abstract numbers, the dopamine rush, over tangible human impact.
That's the argument. It disconnected decisions from their human consequences.
Like the Walmart bonus example. CEO gets millions based on a tweaked metric, frontline worker gets peanuts based on a different one.
A stark illustration. It signals that leadership prioritizes manipulating numbers for their own gain over the fair treatment of their people, breaks the social contract.
The comparison between Jack Welch at GE and James Sinek at Costco really highlights these different philosophies.
It does. Welch, often
Wow.
praised, but presented here as very numbers-driven. Dopamine. Culling the bottom 10% regularly, layoffs as a go-to tool, creating efficiency through fear, perhaps.
Versus Senegal at Costco, prioritizing people first. Good wages, benefits, building loyalty and trust.
Yeah, Sinek believed focusing on morale, on the people. Oxytocin, serotonin was the foundation. Critics said it hurt profits, but he built for stability and resilience.
And the source argues his approach leads to better long-term performance. That focusing on morale first builds resilience.
That's the claim. Short-term performance might boost morale temporarily, dopamine, but building morale through safety and trust, oxytocin, serotonin, leads to sustained success. Costco's continued success seems to back that up.
The source uses this term destructive abundance. What's that about?
It's the idea that having too much, or maybe just focusing relentlessly on getting more, can actually be harmful. It can erode cooperation and well-being.
How does that work?
Well, think about scarcity forcing cooperation in early human groups. Abundance, especially combined with a focus on individual gain, dopamine, can make us less likely to share, less reliant on each other. We build bigger fences, both literally and figuratively. It can undermine the oxytocin serotonin systems that bind us.
And the deregulation examples fit into this.
Yes, things like repealing Glass-Steagall or changing FCC rules. The justification was often about getting more efficiency, more profit, more channels, chasing dopamine.
Glass-Steagall separated regular banking from risky investment banking.
Right, a safeguard put in after the '29 crash. Repealing it allowed banks to chase bigger, riskier dopamine hits through speculation.
And the source links that directly to the 2008 financial crisis.
Directly. Same with media deregulation, prioritizing news as a profit center eroded trust. In both cases, chasing more for a few, driven by addictive short-term gains, damaged stability and trust for the many.
The source also speculates about how this destructive abundance might affect different generations differently.
Yeah, it suggests boomers, maybe focused on wealth and performance, dopamine, might have contributed to dismantling some safeguards. A me before we trend.
And Gen Y, growing up digital, might be hooked on the instant gratification dopamine loops of tech, leading to more abstraction, maybe loneliness.
Possibly. The source suggests they might want to make a difference but seek quicker fixes, like raising awareness online, fast dopamine, instead of the slow, hard work of relationship building and service. Oxytocin, serotonin.
It even links school shootings, tragically, to extreme isolation, a failure of the circle of safety, leaving young people feeling dangerously disconnected.
It's a sobering thought about the consequences when human connection breaks down.
So looking at the big picture the sources paint, it seems like many modern workplaces can actually bring out the worst in us, make us cynical, selfish, stressed.
That's the warning. Our health and our basic humanity can be at risk in environments driven by the wrong things.
But the crucial point is, we're not just victims. We're not helpless against the economy or competitors.
No. The source quotes, "Twain civilizations usually die by suicide, not murder. Internal problems." The real dangers are inside our organizations, and those are the dangers we can control.
We are the architects of our own environment.
Exactly. We have the power to change them.
And the way forward, the solution proposed is service.
Service, but very specifically, not abstract service. Not just serving the customer or serving shareholders.
It's service to the actual people you work with every day, the ones you know.
Yes. The real, living human beings around you, your colleagues, your team members.
That feels much more tangible.
And the source emphasizes the power of real connection. Why do AA meetings happen in person? Why call a sponsor? Because overcoming struggles requires genuine human bonds, not just emails or texts. Shared struggle builds strength.
And those bonds help manage stress, counteract cortisol.
Right. Knowing someone truly has your back, like those soldiers knew Johnny Bravo was there for them, that reduces the biological stress response. It creates safety, allows oxytocin to build more trust.
The source mentioned that want not wasted idea again here.
Yeah, contrasting how abundance can make us less cooperative, less likely to share, compared to scarcity forcing interdependence. We have so much, yet we build bigger walls.
So what truly inspires us then, if not just more?
According to the source, true inspiration comes from a challenge bigger than ourselves. A cause that requires collective effort, that serves others, not just our own bottom line or ego. We're wired to find meaning in serving something beyond ourselves.
So leaders need to give people a reason to commit to each other, a shared purpose that's about more than just hitting targets.
That's the core responsibility. Give them a reason to build that circle of safety together.
And becoming that kind of leader or building that kind of place, it's not instant.
Definitely not. It's incremental. The leaders mentioned, like Chapman or Marquette, they experimented. Small changes, learning, building over time. It takes conscious effort, time, and energy.
Okay, let's try to boil down the key takeaways from this whole deep dive.
All right. First, leadership isn't just about results. It's fundamentally about taking responsibility for your people's well-being and success.
Second, building that internal circle of safety where everyone feels trusted, valued, safe from internal threats is non-negotiable for strength and resilience.
Third, understanding our biology, the EDSO chemicals and cortisol, explains why the environment impacts our behavior and ability to trust so profoundly.
Fourth, prioritize people over numbers, honesty over spin, long-term stability over those addictive short-term gains. It's a conscious choice.
Fifth, build real relationships. Virtual connection isn't enough. Invest time and energy in genuine human connection with colleagues.
Sixth, find a purpose bigger than just profit or personal gain. A cause that serves others inspires deep commitment.
And finally, perhaps the most actionable point, service to the actual real people you work with every day. That's the key to fulfilling work in strong organizations.
So as we wrap up this exploration of Leaders Eat Last, we want to leave you, the listener, with a provocative thought.
Yeah, something to chew on, based on everything we've discussed.
What is one small, concrete thing you could do today, like right after listening to this, to extend that circle of safety just a little bit further for someone you work with?
Or maybe just to connect with one colleague on a more human level. It doesn't have to be huge.
Think about one person. What small act of service? Or maybe just showing a bit of vulnerability yourself, or offering genuine interest, could you do?
It's those small, consistent actions that build trust over time.
Well, that concludes our deep dive today. We've journeyed through Sinek's ideas on shifting from why to who, the biology of trust, and seen some powerful examples.
We really hope exploring this has given you some useful perspectives on how to create, or maybe find, environments where people can truly thrive.
Thanks so much for joining us. Definitely give some thought to that final question. How can you be an architect of a better, safer environment starting today?